Okay, here we go. Well, I cannot tell you how sort of excited I am to start the first session in the series of the Year of AI Challenged. This is an opening session, and I'm really happy that you join us. But you will be able to listen to all the recordings also on our YouTube channel, Ecocivilisation YouTube channel, as well as you could see it on a Ecocivilisation web page. But partially it will be reposted also on our social media. Just for those that joined us for the first time, Eco-Civilization movement is a really disruptive global cluster of people who care. This is really the core proposition. It is also a safe space for engagement, collaboration, innovation, and emerging foundation for future civilization. We are slowly spreading throughout the world. Now we're in 53 countries and constantly searching for topics that bring us together, for topics that we can jointly engage and help each other to broaden our consciousness, broaden our perception, and of course, move forward together. In a way, we see consciousness, eco-civilization as a consciousness in a sense of a soft infrastructure, trying to go beyond just connection and also learn how do you build trust in the field of emergence. We see it as a living system in practice, so we're constantly readjusting to the learnings, to the new levels of awareness, and to the new knowledge that comes through new partners, new members, and new discussions. In the sense of technology, we are pretty much aware that we're navigating through something really unknown, something that is happening based on people's curiosity and based on capacity to invest, capacity to build, and capacity to deliver. It's all about timing, emergence, and we do see technology as an amplifier and as well as a tool. So throughout our discussions, we're trying to raise awareness about that. Because as we know, there are also tendencies that this becomes really a goal and that it defines the future civilizations and the future shape of the society. So let's see what today's discussion will bring. And based on this definition and relationship with technology, we see AI as a partner. And I learned that from Luis because before I was calling it a tool, but he really, in our latest discussion last year that we spent 2 days together on that, he convinced me that we should treat AI as a partner in delivering life-affirming Earth-centric ecosystems. So it's still not a goal, but it is something that we need to work with. And at the same time, we see AI not as an external force, but rather as a mirror, an amplifier, and a test of humanity's readiness for thriving. And this is really the focus, like the overarching framework within which today's discussion will evolve. And this year of AI challenge will go throughout the entire 2026. Every month we will meet and we will add another topic and another view over this vast field that AI is opening as a new technological horizontal platform. We will try to raise the awareness, try to clarify the misperceptions, and of course to connect people who care. Three of us are actually at the core of this year of AI Challenged. And Marina is also today with us as a speaker and co-creator of today's session. Ekaterina will join us and lead some of the sessions in the future. But we also connected with a little bit broader audience, also younger generations, in order to get a fresh look at the technology. And we will be seeing them also throughout the year as co-organizers and active members of this year of AI Challenged. What I can say before we start the discussion is that we do live in the world we imagine and manifest. We cannot blame something else. It's we people that define the way how we people live, adjust, and of course sustain. It is the way how we decide how we build our resilience to the natural ecosystem within which we coexist. So, a really question that keeps bugging me and keeps coming forward is, what kind of world are we imagining now? Or do we still have the capacity to imagine? Or do we just follow? Or do we just go day by day without really thinking a bit long term and hopefully thinking also about consequences of our thoughts being positive or negative? So yes, in this year, we will be addressing how AI is challenging our ways of imagining our future. We will seek answers to the fundamental questions of the future of humanity. Does the AI presence help humans remain awake to their own responsibility, or enslaving them, to the final extinction? That is very often in my mind and kind of fundamental question. I'm not going to go into details, but in this year we will have 10 sessions and mini conferences. And of course, in 2027, we will also deliver a book of all the discussions and different authors that will participate. Hopefully, today's guests will also be part of that final act. Today, they are with us, Rosalia Arteaga. Unfortunately, she is flying right now, so she just shared with us a video, which I will share with you as well. Mitya Yarmol, we're still waiting for him to join, who is UNESCO Chair and Open Technologies for Open Education Resource and Open Education at Institute Josef Stefan in Slovenia as well. Angad Singh, who is who is impact strategist at 8 Goals 1 Foundation, a close partner. We collaborate a lot, Ecocivilisation 881, and I'm really happy he joined us. And it is a special honor to also welcome Luis Paulo Reis, Associate Professor at FEU in Porto, in Portugal. Very influential professor with enormous amount of publications on the topic of AI, and Sebastian Helmsleben, who is hard to describe, but Sebastian is for me one of those provocateurs and also well-read and well-articulated scientists and professionals in the field of artificial intelligence, also closely connected with OECD. And that's how we've met for the first time in the capacity of OECD when we shared the space and a discussion on AI last year. And last but not least, I already mentioned Marina Domchenko. She's a co-founder of also Global City Research Group, Living Cities Research Ecosystem, where we also connect. She's leading that group. She's also Ecocivilisation Wing for Russia from Britain, conducting that from Britain. Very active member of different global associations and also co-organizer of this year of AI Challenge. Marina, welcome on board as well. So, before we go further, I'd first like to ask you briefly, really, just where and how did you get in touch with AI? Why are you interested in this topic? And what were your first thoughts about AI? And have they changed throughout the years? And maybe I will start with Luis because I see you at the top of the list of speakers, the way how I see this. Please, Luis, the word is yours.
Well, I started with AI many years ago. Basically, I met AI because a lot before it was fashionable. In fact, in the beginning of the 90s, in 1990, when I was finishing my degree. AI at that moment was not a hype. It was mostly for several people like me, it was curiosity. I developed my first chess program a lot before, well, Kasparov was defeated by Deep Blue. But as part of my first efforts on AI, we are trying to make machines reason, learn, and cooperate. At the time, there was a large effort on what was going to be the future, cooperation of machines with humans. Machine learning that was not at the moment what was developed or researched in AI. But today AI is everywhere. Okay, but fundamental question is the same. Not whether machines can think, but whether humans will think more because of machines. If machines really will help us with the AI. So we came a long way from symbolic reasoning, the first robotics, multi-agent systems, today to foundation models, generative AI, agentic systems, and the future with robotics. But in fact, AI is still a huge challenge for all humanity, as it was in the 90s, and we already knew at the time. But now everybody knows about it, I think.
Thank you, Liz. Angad, would you like to pick it up?
For sure. So, I mean, I heard the term AI for the first time playing video games as a child, and particularly Metal Gear Solid 2. Um, because video games at the end of the day, back in the day and still are about programming computers to interact with the player in evolving ways. But AI as we know it is something I came across in the news, on social media, I think as most of the world did back in 2018, 2019, when we had influential figures talking about how AI can revolutionize the world. The way I viewed it was, as we view any emerging technology, is use it as a partner, use it as a tool, and we must work with it to achieve what we must to advance as humanity. But I was also skeptical about those using emerging technologies, especially AI, for short-term gains. What I realize now is much of the same, but I perhaps underestimated the direct impact AI and its evolution would have on our economy, on our environment, and byproducts that did not foresee, for example, using so much water to make data centers and the shortage of solid state drives, which hampers multiple things as opposed to me not being able to play video games. But as with anything, if you look at the Industrial Revolution, for example, it had tremendous impact on the environment, but at the same time, it's made our lives so much more convenient and it's brought us here today as we are. The responsibility is on us to use AI meaningfully for positive, advancement for humankind. And I hope we can do that, and these spaces for such conversations will hopefully lead us in that direction.
Thank you. Marina, would you like to pick up from here?
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity. And again, I'm happy to greet everyone who is today with us, not only speakers, but also those people who are watching us just right now, live, and maybe afterwards in recording. So speaking about myself, I think that my first encounter with the AI was maybe in early 2000s, and and to some extent it defined my skeptic thoughts about artificial intelligence back to those days, and maybe up to the latest months. So my first encounter maybe was in translations, in very weak translation programs. And I remember that the funniest thing which I liked to share was then the notion of the color pigment was translated as a process of being a pig. So in this case, I think that this early attempts to translate and to make the interpreter to replace the interpreters with the machines was rather funny. And as a researcher, I have been working with AI for the last several years, and I also realized that it's rather complicated and unreliable to use AI directly as a tool which helps you to provide, to create research, at least, as we discussed, when we want to have the short-term, quick responses which are not proven, which are not tested, which are not fact-checked. So in this case, during the last several months, I came to the conclusion that, and I would like to share later in today's conversation these thoughts, that the problem is not what AI is and the quality of the responses. The problem is how we interact and what we ask from AI. And it seems to me that we, as another evolvement of our evolution, we have invented maybe the tool, maybe a partner. So again, let's discuss it later. But we don't know how to interact with it. We don't know what it is capable of and how to work safely with it and what might be the implications as well. So I am not skeptical now because I understand that it can augment our results and our speed of communication and creating very important things very profoundly. But at the same time, if we don't know how to interact and what's the responsibility and whose responsibility in this process, this might be dangerous.
Thank you very much for your initial input as well. Very interesting and diversified comments and the points of interaction with AI. So, Sebastian, where was your first encounter with AI and how do you see it now?
Yeah, it's always a little bit difficult to date precisely, but I would pick the year 2018 when deepfakes became broadly available. Shortly followed by a demonstration site that NVIDIA put up called thispersondoesnotexist.com, which with every reload created the face of a new person. And at the time, it was seen as a curiosity. It was seen in the case of deepfakes as, this is a tool that can be misused to kind of create fake porn. But it was a fairly limited sense of risk or downsides. And I remember the frustration that society as a whole did not take this moment more seriously. Because from my perspective, something very, very fundamental shifted. We have been used to a world throughout human history that if you stand up and are counted, you are counted as one person. Be it in a public agora, being physically in some venue to kind of discuss and have arguments and vote, be it in a democratic system where the notion of one person, one vote has been one of the most fundamental principles. But also in a semi-quantitative or kind of semi-strict way in the digital space, if you wanted to take part in a forum, you had to sit down and write text to engage. If you wanted to influence the perception of a product, you had to sit down and write a review. Worst case was, well, maybe if you had lots of money, you could pay other people to write additional reviews for you. But there was a natural limit to the scalability simply because it was human-made. With deepfakes and related tools, and GPT-2 was already good enough for that in many ways, all of a sudden these scalability limits disappeared. And this is something that carried a lot of my thinking and my work all the way to the present day, that how do we make this fundamental distortion, this quantitative distortion of the digital space, more aware in the eyes of policymakers, but also in the eyes of society as a whole? And how do we craft and envision a future that doesn't just accept that, well, this is how it is, and whoever mobilizes the largest number of bots wins discourse, whether it's in business or in democracy, but rather what is the digital space that we want to have instead, and how do we want to shape it, and how can we create an inspiring, a mobilizing vision. And I took it to the point of creating a new conference, of creating a digital trust convention, which OECD kindly hosted in 24 and Mila hosted in 25, to bring together a community of people interested in how do we build an inspiring, a mobilizing vision of a digital space that is still realistic as well. To me, and this is maybe also relevant to the whole AI discussion, yes, it's important to point the finger at all the things that go wrong, the concentration of power, the misuse of AI, the fakery, the mental health impact, and so on and so forth. But that's not enough. It's very clearly not enough, because there has been no shortage of warnings and kind of pointing a finger and saying, oh, look, danger, 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 and risk, risk, risk. It seems that this is not enough. And I'm convinced that what we need in addition, in parallel, is a mobilizing, inspiring alternative to say, hey, this is also what a future could look like. And collectively, we have the power to bring it about.
Thank you very much for also this important invitation to continue to dare to imagine the world we really truly want to live, and not just be driven by technology. And I'll share a little insights, because as an engineer, I grew up in Silicon Valley, and I was right at the beginning of the TCP/IP business evolution. And I remember at that time, all of a sudden, everything became connected and everything became really built around ecosystems and this awareness, what can we do, how much we can do. And I was really one of the first network performance analysts of TCP/IP, global corporate networks, constantly observing what could go wrong. So I was on the side of searching what are the problems, how can we fix them, and how can we become aware of them better, because so many decisions all of a sudden started to depend on it. And I was surprised how little critical view was of the consequences that followed, how much little awareness about data and how to handle data and privacy was at the beginning, because this drive, what we can do, was so much stronger than really the concerns, what could potentially go wrong and what is happening with the rest of the life ecosystems in relationship to that. And I can see the same hype happening over and over again with every single high-tech generation. We seem not to learn at all. And then being involved for 5 years in transport on an EU level, I really realized that in spite of having heavy-duty lessons, for example, of automotive industry with the pollution, we still are reluctant to ask ourselves challenging questions. Like as an engineer, if somebody at the beginning of last century would give to engineers not only specifications for building faster cars, more capable and everything, but also say, and please make sure that they don't pollute, we would be today in a different world. And I'm constantly asking myself, what is the question related to the AI that we should be asking ourselves today, and then have less negative consequences in 20, 30 years time from now, when maybe billions of euros will be spent in order to mitigate those negative externalities. So I'm a bit puzzled with, as a humanity, it's like, don't we really want to learn from the past at all? So that would be my opening statement. So let's dive now into the discussion and stick with those basic questions. Allow me to go back to the presentation for a second and just raise the next set of questions that I'd like to invite you into and see where we can get from here. So First, I'd like to share the video, which I already said. Rosalia, yesterday, when she realized there is no way she can make it, she sent me this very kindly, this video. And let's listen to her for really just a short 2 minutes.
Hi, everybody. I'm happy to be here and to share some thoughts about artificial intelligence. I first want to congratulate Violeta for doing this or having this initiative and to talk from different angles. In my side, I have been in politics, but also in educational field. And from this area, I am a little scary and of course, looking forward about this tool because artificial intelligence must be a tool. And of course, we are aware about what we can do in these terms of education, not letting behind the human intelligence and especially the emotional intelligence. In terms of using this tool, it is a fantastic tool. But in terms of replacing human being, it's not fantastic because we have to maintain, and it's our duty and our responsibility to maintain human being in the center of this, to maintain the possibility of control artificial intelligence and not be controlled for it. And it's very sensitive when we are talking about small kids that are in contact directly with artificial intelligence or with the students. I think we must do a lot of work between the parents, the families, of course, that are very important, and also the teachers, the school. How we can manage it, how we can handle it is the big challenge of the present and the future generations. Thank you for letting me put this on the table and talk about it.
Thank you very much, Rosalia. She has a very strong point, and being a former president of the country, she brings this really broad perspective that also politicians need to address. And maybe in another point, we'll have a deeper discussion with her. But let's move now on and to the next set of thoughts, which is more related to human agency and responsibility. And my question to you would be, are we still the ones making decisions, or has AI quietly taken the steering wheel? And who is actually accountable while doing so? Who actually grows in this enriched ecosystem of this very capable technology, and who shrinks through AI? And let me start this time, Sebastian, with you. And maybe you can bring a little bit broader perspective to it. And then, of course, please just come in whenever you feel like challenged or you want to add something. I don't want this to be like just Q&A, but a real discussion. So please.
I'd like to latch onto the we in this statement. Are we the ones still taking the decisions? And you had a sentence on an earlier slide along the lines of, we live the future that we imagine. So if we say we as society in a broad sense, no, we don't, because we don't dare to imagine. I think the smaller we, the group that actually does exactly that, are the very small number of, well, what we like to call and diss as the tech bros. And there is a small community, very, very well-resourced community, that does have imagination of what the future should look like. And it is along the lines of AI being controlled by a relatively small number of people, AI being in charge in some sense of controlling humanity, except for the small slice of humanity that is the tech bros, for want of a better word, and a certain kind of let's say a certain political slant that comes into it as well. It is not a particularly logical picture of the future. It has various inconsistencies. and contradictions, but it is a picture of the future. And there is no counter argument. And that's the point I was trying to make earlier. There's no strong counter argument or counter vision. It's a slightly weird situation because, as I said earlier, I started engaging with the topic on a very pragmatic observation from a physicist's view, as which I'm trained, saying, okay, so there's a new technology, it has certain capabilities. This will probably have certain consequences. It'll be used by good actors, by bad actors, and we'll see quantitative effects and we'll see an erosion of trust. And that's kind of the scientist's view. But over time, I've come to wonder whether instead of just pragmatically addressing the issue, we need to almost invent a new ism. So we grew up in this big East-West conflict, and there was capitalism versus communism or socialism. And both sides of the coin were constantly challenged by the other and had to justify themselves to their citizen on why they believe they are the superior system. And then the Cold War ended, and capitalism and democracy, quotes, won in some sense, but at the same time stopped being challenged and stopped justifying itself to citizens and to consumers all the time. So, and I think it's those decades of, I would say, complacency, or saying, oh, we don't need any isms anymore because one of the isms has won the debate globally. That
I was
we
just
are
about to
now,
ask you that. I mean,
yeah.
can we go beyond isms? Is it time to move on?
So actually now I'm wondering, do we need a new ism? I'm starting to think about, oh, we need to create a movement. We need to, it's not enough to put pragmatic arguments out there. We need to somehow fill a void. I'm still a little unsure what the shape of the void is, but it's a sense that pragmatic argument on its own might not be sufficient.
It's a very important point, because this is something that when you hear something that resembles the past, it's so easy to fall into that trap and not see and think beyond. So Luis, do you think we need a new framework within which we can think beyond what we understand technology is today? Or what is your attitude in that respect? And who do you think controls the future vision of the world?
I think humans should obviously know better how to use technology and how to interact with technology. There were very nice visions about this. Sebastian had two very interesting visions that I would like to briefly comment. Every transformative technology like AI creates two separate camps, believers and skeptics. Okay, and then in the past, society is divided between competing visions: political, economical, communism, democracy, each claim to represent the future of humanity. And we can see now a similar vision about AI. AI supporters believe that technology will solve every problem. AI negationists fear technology and that they will destroy human autonomy, all the social order, whatever. Okay, but history teaches us that both extremes are incomplete. So technologies will not determine history, and societies shape how the technologies are used. Okay. And the same little bit happened with the digital distortion. I enjoyed a lot what Sebastian told about that. I believe the same. I was shocked when the European Commission said deep fakes, oh, low risk. Come on, okay. Deepfakes are very, very high risk, okay. You cannot say that. It's exactly the opposite we want to really use. But what I think is that deepfakes are not a problem. They are a symptom of what is going on, okay. they reveal several things. So, in fact, images were evidence, videos were proof, recorded speech were authenticity, and now they are not. Okay, the assumptions were gone. So generative AI broken the historical link between what is representation and reality. And that is the big problem. Okay, it's not deepfakes. It's really what this means. Images can be fabricated, a voice can be simulated, and that's really quite complex. Okay. And how can you stop this digital distortion? But you have to think that this will go not to only a new digital space, but even further. Because what will happen in the future is that we will have a physical space that will also be that will also have distortion. Okay. When we go to robotics, okay, we can talk a little bit about this, I think, in during this, but it's not digital, it's also physical. And when we go physical, this will be a lot more complex. And well, in emergencies and responsibilities, just very briefly, okay, I think humans think that they can delegate responsibility, but no, delegation is useful, but responsibility cannot be delegated. Okay, we must use AI, but we must remain accountable while using AI, because otherwise, I'm pretty sure that the human agency and well, from my perspective, AI does not eliminate, of course, or reduce human agency, but it redistributes a little bit the agency, because some individuals and some individuals will gain enormous responsibilities because AI is very powerful. Organizations will scale up decisions very fast. And countries and nations will get strategic technological power. And the risk is not to have this kind of autonomous AI systems, autonomous machines. The risk is to have passive humans that really do not that delegate decisions instead of that not only delegate decisions but delegate responsibility, and responsibility again cannot be delegated.
But Luis, let me challenge you a little bit on this one. We've had so many discussions already, so I can't afford to do so. Who really runs the show at the back? We've heard about the stories that the owners of these apps or technologies, if they don't like the answer, they reprogram the way how the app is behaving. So who really runs the show? Who actually defines the future that we see, or this kind of fake world that is emerging time to time?
Well, I can see who runs the show. There are the big powers. We can see what is going on with the US. All of us probably seen the speech of Trump yesterday. We see what's going on in China and Russia, and we see the power of the big technology companies, and they are running the show, not us.
So this is a
We should get
perfect
the power.
interaction.
We should get the power again.
Yeah.
Okay. Because mostly the power is getting not to be democratic, but it's getting to be on really the most powerful organizations, countries, and so on.
But let me bring this Angad into the picture, because we, as I should say, I grew up in the world where there was no such a technology. So I still remember. So I still have this distance. But he represent you, Angad. You represent the youth, and you grew up with this. Can you still imagine the world on your own? Or are you part of this framework within which your thoughts are being developed, and of course completely influenced by the capacity of technology that you use? What's your opinion? What's your take on it?
So, in my opinion, I think there is tremendous scope for us to use our critical thinking, our own imagination to continue to imagine the world we want, right? And I've been resonating with a lot of the points that Luis and Sebastian said, and I'm just going to touch upon them. But at the end of the day, we are all accountable members of society, some more than others, right? And it's also about how we view the world versus how we are made to view the world. How can we challenge that? And to me personally, as someone who's grown up in a very digital sort of world, is digital literacy and active citizenship, right? How do we take the power back? The first step is knowledge, right? Not just knowledge for the youth, but for all members of society. And by active citizenship, we can put pressure on the governments, we can put pressure on the corporations and initiate active dialogue so that we're actually aware about what are the implications of emerging technologies. A lot of people may not necessarily understand how AI works. Maybe someone who is a bit older might see AI generated content and take it at face value. Someone who's a bit more literate, a bit younger about AI generated content can apply that critical lens towards it, right? So how do we bridge that gap? And there are gaps across age, across gender, across regions, across various intersections. Um, Coming from a civil society perspective, I think, you know, consumers should use their wallet, vote with your wallet. Citizens should use their voices and use your communities. The government should put pressure on the private sector and vice versa. And society should be in the conversation always, right? And that is where we bring in other stakeholders, educators, parents, lawmakers, right? Active citizenship and education is really the way forward to kind of help people on that path to reimagine the world and continue to evolve so that we don't fall into the traps of what is being given to us, what is a commodity which is going to give someone else short-term gains, as opposed to how we can use these technologies for our own advancement for society as a whole.
You muted.
Angela, you obviously challenged Sebastian a little bit. So Marina, allow me to bring Sebastian in just for a quick reflection, and then I will pass the word to you. Please, Sebastian.
Yeah, just to briefly challenge what you said, Anget, and also to pick up a little bit on Luis. The way you put it just now sounds like, yes, it's both the responsibility and the power of the individual to perceive, to know what's going on, and to challenge power, to challenge the system, to kind of improve society that we live in. And part of me very strongly agrees with that. The other part of me says, well, do we still have that power if we live in a world where the reality that people perceive is a reality that is shaped by AI, which in turn is shaped by a fairly small number of people who control the major systems and infrastructure. And so I fear that the agency that relies on knowledge and insight might be fighting a losing battle a little bit.
Wow, that is a great provocation for Marina, because Marina is not only very much interested in new technologies, but she also runs the Year of the Soul of the Cities, where we're actually discussing on a monthly basis now also this interaction between people and the environment and technology and everything that is part of some sort of modern city. So, Marina, how do you reflect? What do you think about this?
Oh, I have so many thoughts to refer to each of the speakers, so I will try to be succinct, but at the same time to share what I just thought. So first of all, speaking about environment, in some of our late conversations, we came across a very interesting, mostly indigenous perspective that everything which exists is an environment, including digital environment and AI. And if it exists, it is already the part of reality, and you can either reject it or maybe confront or try to control, or you can try to interact and co-create with the parts of this reality. Another very interesting perspective for which we came across not long ago was that any part of environment might be dangerous. wild animals are dangerous. Different earthquakes or hurricanes are dangerous. Floods are dangerous. People are very dangerous. So AI is not much more dangerous than any other parts of the environment. And here I think it's also really important to really understand, first of all, I like this idea of the responsibility and accountability, which must not be delegated. And here I just wanted to refer to one of the news which I published not long ago, yesterday, in LinkedIn, about the financial AI agent, to which one of the employees of OpenAI delegated to create in cryptocurrency the building mechanism and turn $50,000 into 1 million. And to make it visible, to make this experiment visible, it also linked it to the X media platform, and this AI published the reports on how it creates this 1 million out of 50K. And the funny thing was that one of the X users, former Twitter, so he wrote to this AI agent that his uncle was dying out of some disease, and it asks some cryptocurrency to help. And AI transferred tokens on the sum of $500,000 of dollars to this person. And this person, of course, it has taken some of this money. So that's about, so AI was very generous. I don't know, AI agent was very sort of responsive and caring, but it gave this user of X almost $500,000 just because he asked in this media platform. So I think it's a great example of that we can teach AI agents to do some things which we don't want to do, or we want to do faster, but at the very end, it's about, let me maybe over-exaggerate, but it's mostly about laziness and greed. So we want faster, we want more, and we want to do less. And to some extent, this might be the solution, but those funny, not funny examples, they show us that there might be some mistakes, and here we can see the mistake of losing money, which were sort of created, and to some extent this AI robot created and then just spent this money. But when we are talking about delegating some very important things which can impact lives of many people, this might be dangerous, and this might be this might cause a very very important and dangerous consequences. And at the same time, I've came across the idea that AI is a new electricity. So as in the beginning of 20th century, electricity gave the opportunity to live absolutely different life for many people. And when I participated in one of these colloquiums about AI in Cambridge University last year, one of the speakers shared the idea that when the steam engines appeared, the only one labor force which lost its work was the horse, and it could not comply because it could not complain because sort of most of the things which horses were doing was delegated to some engines. But at the same time, I understand that maybe it's not only the electricity and the new capability of people doing something better, quicker, and in bigger amounts. It's mostly maybe about the nuclear power and nuclear energy. And at the same time, you know, I came across one of the historical podcasts which were exploring this idea, and the speaker shared the real fact, so I fact-checked it with the AI, that definitely in 1950s, in the US, there was a toy which was named Atomic Energy Lab, and it was a toy lab set for children, which was distributed through the shops with the small samples of uranium. And children and their parents were suggested to play with this. And a very funny play, then one participant of this game was hiding this sample of uranium somewhere in the house. And then a child with the Geiger-Müller counter was trying to find this piece of uranium in the house. So it's funny for us, but it was just, and moreover, this toy was replaced from the shops, not because it was dangerous, it was too expensive. So in this case, we see that we have AI, which is more or less cheap. We have these Alexas and Siris and many helpful and annoying assistants who are helping our children to do some job. We have ChatGPT and others which help our children to and make homeworks instead of them. But their consequences might be very similar to this playing with uranium. And again, it's not about banning the nuclear power because it can produce a lot of cheap electricity. It's about the protocols of safety of how we can use it, and moreover, how young children can use it. How this AI, which I agree is our partner, can help us grow and make us more human, instead of decline and make us dumb and again taken for granted all the silly things which it provides. And again, you were talking about who controls the narrative. I would suggest us to think about how we teach both young children, young generation, but also the adults, people as well, critical thinking. How do we check what we are learning and what we are reading? And speaking about what is more dangerous, mainstream media or AI, and who provides more fakes, so it's another conversation to compare. So
okay,
I think that, yeah,
Marina, I have to
about who the human is, not what the danger in AI is.
Okay, but I cannot move on without challenging you back, all of you, all four of you. When we grew so-called nature 2, which are our communities, cities, and villages, we did an extensive damage to the Earth natural ecosystem. Shrink the biodiversity capacities, really destroy the water. There is a lack of clean water in the world. We really polluted the air, basically made living conditions on this planet Earth much worse than they were before. I agree with you. I mean, we have to take this technology on board because we created it, so it became part of our day-to-day life. I call it nature 3, okay? Is this virtual world, everything all technology, everything related to technology. But can't we learn? I mean, do we really have to now pollute the same way that communities polluted the natural ecosystems? We want to now pollute with technology the communities and human communities and capacities that we have as human beings. And I don't want to sound here really negative or destructive, but I'm just lacking those critical questions without, before we take everything on board. And I can see Sebastian's been provoked. Please.
Yes, and I think this is a really, really useful analogy. So going back to the 1970s, we have the first organizations pointing out that we're destroying our physical environment. So organizations, particularly the Club of Rome, who published their report, The Limits of Growth, and pointing out two major things. First, they said we are exhausting natural resources, finite resources. And secondly, we are polluting the physical environment that we live in, and we make it unlivable. It took humanity a few decades to sort of cotton on to the validity of these warnings, and at least we are on a path towards addressing these with kind of steps forward and backwards, but at least humanity is on a path. Now we are in pretty much exactly the same situation with our digital environment. It has become an environment that we live in, that we do business in, that we socialize in, that we kind of have discourse and make decisions and build democracies in. We have pollution in the form of misinformation, disinformation, slop, bots, and so on. And we have a finite resource, and the finite resource is our human attention span. I'm always stunned when people very casually say, oh yeah, the amount of information in the digital space is growing exponentially or even more quickly. And I'm thinking, yes, and the amount of information that we can process, the attention bandwidth that we have is constant, more or less. And so the slice of what we can process and or even perceive is getting smaller and smaller relative to what is out there. And so we need to take safeguarding our digital environment just as seriously as back in the 70s, people argued we need to take safeguarding our physical environment. We need to work on how to safeguard the finite resource attention span, what to do about pollution in order to keep the digital space livable. Because if we don't, we lose it. I mean, we can exist without the digital space. I mean, humanity did that quite comfortably for hundreds of thousands of years, but it would be a shame to lose it and to end up with basically a dead internet that is populated by bots and highly automated scams.
Exactly, Sebastian, and I can see Anga has been provoked as well, and please come on board. But I'd like to also pick up on something you said before. You mentioned water, and I have this in mind constantly. Are we going to use the energy which we don't have enough? We don't have a surplus anyway now to power the machines, and then where are we going to get it for day-to-day living? How are we going to deal with that? If we use all this water for cooling down machines or to produce hydrogen or I don't know what else we're going to come up with, how are we going to support the basic conditions of life? Then transhumanism becomes the only option, doesn't it? But Angan, please.
I mean, my counter to that, and it's kind of dystopian, is if there's short-term gains, really. If I am able to profit off of this dead internet and increasing processing power and using natural resources, if I can get short-term gains and get enough resources for myself and my family and secure those resources for myself, I'm only going to be alive for the next 50 odd years, right? I don't care about what happens to humanity. How do we counter that sort of a notion, that selfish, that human greed, that you only really need one rotten apple in 1,000 to kind of, ruin the entire bunch. So that's really my counter question to it. So while we all might have, positive outcomes in mind for humanity, we are a limited group of people. There are other people out there who are more powerful, who might not see the same way.
It's the power of ideas, if I can come in. So there is this quote, nothing is as powerful as an idea whose time has come. It's usually ascribed to Victor Hugo. It's probably older than that. Nothing as powerful as an idea whose time has come. And the question I'm asking myself is, well, the time has come. Where is the idea? What is the idea that we can put into this world as if you like, a positive virus that spreads, that kind of travels, that starts influencing people's thinking over years, maybe even over decades. That's one of the approaches that gives me some hope.
Marina and Luis, would you like to pick up on any of these comments, and then we'll continue, because what each of you have put forward leads really nicely to the next set of questions and discussions. But please, first, Marina and Luis, if you want to come in.
Yes, thank you. I thought that, I think, Sebastian, you mentioned this contradictions and sort of rivalry because capitalism and communism and all other isms. And I just thought that maybe humanism is a good answer for a new ism. And in this case, again, from one of the conversations with wise people, we discussed that maybe the very one thing which can unite the whole human civilization, despite of all the differences and our unresolved tensions in races, nations, politics, and all these things, might be some coming of the aliens, as we can see from some, again, American Hollywood films. But at the same time, if we are speaking about the replacement of humans by AI in many, many jobs, maybe this is the time to think what's the difference and to define our sort of common denominator, the common thing which distincts a human being from, for example, the artificial intelligence. And again, I don't like this term because it is not intelligence. It is the machine learning which provides the operationalization of the big data. But at the same time, maybe some sort of augmented intelligence. So I think that maybe defining what is our unique capacity as humans, in first of all in comparison to AI, but at the same time, what can help us interact and work together using AI in an ethical and mindful way, which can augment the result, which might not be achieved separately only by AI when you just delegate some decision making and then produces some strange things, or when you are doing something yourself, but you have no such capacity as AI has in terms of working with big data. So maybe this discerning what really means to be a human is the solution. And when we really define what distincts us as human beings, not only from the whole nature and all other species, but first of all from our own creation, this new technologies, this will give us the understanding on how to proceed in a better way and how we could invest, first of all, time and efforts in ourselves, in our own development, in order to be more wise partner for AI.
Thank you, Marina. So humanism and everything around it, this is something to explore further. But before I move on, let's ask Luis for his final thoughts on this first part of our discussion.
Yeah, commenting on several of the things that were discussed. I really like the idea of nothing is more powerful than ideals. Time has come. Okay. We don't know exactly, probably Victor Hugo, but we don't know exactly who said that. But really now AI is not powerful because of machines, but is powerful because it's really an idea that's coming in the right moment. We have the data and we have the computing power to get this new AI to be really useful, to be really a trend. And should we replace humans by AI? Well, one of the things I think is that humans that use AI will replace the humans that don't use AI. I'm pretty sure of that. So we have to use AI in the right way. We have to interact with AI in the right way. Okay, but obviously the idea, well, what is intelligence? Okay, obviously our intelligence is quite different from the AI intelligence because we have embodiment and okay, we have a body, a sensory experience, emotion, social interaction, and so on. But if the AI does exactly the same, I have okay, we learn by living, but if the AI is embodied in robots that live and learn using interaction, I'm not completely sure about the exact difference of that. In fact, I am on the opposite side that I think that an AI, embodied AI, that okay, it can have a large language model in the beginning, okay, pretty made brain in the beginning, but then learns through interaction with the embodied. I'm not completely sure if it will be so much different from humans. Another thing that I found really interesting was the idea for the nuclear toy. I heard that it was in the 50s, I think. It was really many, many years ago. And people thought that children could play with uranium because we trust technology and they think, okay, we can play with uranium. Great, okay, without understanding consequences. But we survived this atomic age not by stopping innovation, but mostly becoming more responsible. Okay, we require this more civilization maturity. We have this very powerful AI, but now it's more or less a new atomic moment. Okay, except that the explosion is in knowledge, not in physics. We will not have the explosion really as a nuclear explosion, but a knowledge explosion. And but the things are more or less the same. In fact, I think. So we have to be really careful about this, and we have to work on how to do the same that we did with nuclear power and the US toy. At the end, it was not ended because it was dangerous. Was ended because it was not profitable, which is amazing. Okay. So the idea, it was very expensive, not so much fun. And then at the end, it was ended because of that, not because it was dangerous to humanity. And it was dangerous, okay. But that's a very nice idea.
Well, thank you very much for this not finished sentences that you all kept alive in the air. So we continue to seek the questions, and I would dare to offer a little insight by myself, believing that we have to make sure that technology is under control. I still believe we need a red button. Sebastian will remember that, with which we can switch off any kind of application driven by AI or not. We need a responsible person at the end, so technology cannot be held responsible. There has to be somebody who owns it and has to be responsible for. And I still believe that keeping in mind the importance and the spread that it reached in such a short period of time, we are invited to have similar attitude as towards TCP/IP protocol, which was as revolutionary at that time as it's this technology today, and keep the global standards and global interfaces that allow us to continue to coexist in this planet Earth as humanity, not to divide us with the new artificial boundaries, and which application you're going to use, that's the political framework you belong to, which I believe that is a very dangerous game. So I'm a bit encouraged by the UN steps, finally, that they started to make just last week when this conference under I believe, the Organization of India happened, and the UN is taking some action. So I think we've done some good things in other technologies, like in aviation, maritime, where we have these global agreements and global standards. So let's hope that humanity continues to ride the wave and keeps the control over the way how this new emerging technology is evolving and influencing. But that is a great starting point for the next set of questions that I'd like to invite you into a discussion. And that is, whose intelligence really we have embedded, whose culture and values are being amplified, and whose are being erased. We've seen with some more primitive applications, like Wikipedia and similar apps, how prejudiced they can be, and how restrictive were towards a certain type of people. I would even dare to say toward gender, especially women. we see what is happening in the gaming world, and Angad could share a lot about his research with us in that respect. The way how women are treated in the gaming industry, which is appalling. So could you please explore this field with me a little bit? So who is really empowered and who becomes obsolete, and which assumptions we embed into the future? How manipulative this any kind of technology can be. And I would like to invite Angdan into this to open up this discussion and maybe share some of the findings of the research that you've done and you're doing still in this field. Please.
Thanks, Violetta. So I think I'll approach this answer in two ways. One is really whose intelligence, culture, and values are being amplified, right? I think at the end of the day, it boils down to accessibility and the digital divide, and it's a lot of pre-existing societal stereotypes and issues that have kind of bled into digital environments, right? Um, Women and girls still have less access to technology as opposed to men and boys, right? People in the global north still have the income and the access to resources to be able to use technology as opposed to people from developing regions. That also informs the kind of data and the level of data in the digital environments and who's feeding that data, right? As you mentioned, early models were prejudiced. We look at early chatbots. I forgot the name, but there was a chatbot that was way before ChatGPT or any of those sorts, which was uh, basically speaking in racial slurs uh, when you would prompt it, right? Um, and if you look at the games industry, right? A lot of the voices in the games industry have been predominantly masculine because women and girls, while they are almost half of the gamers out there, have been harassed, discriminated against, and treated improperly. Even in the industry, access to entering the video games industry has been problematic for women because women and girls were not allowed to learn the skill sets to enter the industry. It was largely male dominated. I think it echoes a lot of the issues with a lot of other industries around the world, right? But the byproduct here is there's a lot of media that was created, which is being consumed by people around the world. And a lot of this media is also shaped for certain demographics, right? I think all of this kind of boils down to whose voices are amplified, what culture is amplified, what culture is stereotyped, what culture is accurately represented. Um, and that boils down to any conversations we have online and therefore the AI we end up using because this is the data the models are trained on. I also see the flip side of it, especially with the games industry. People are becoming more aware about the fact that using your culture to make creative products and representing different genders and cultures accurately can lead to dialogues, intercultural dialogue. It can lead to people working together, making friends, and even for the capitalists, it does improve your bottom line. So there is actually a business case and a cultural case to be made for us to be able to bridge those divides, increase accessibility across board, and improve conversations across regions and across diverse opinions. I think that's just going to bleed into pretty much anything we see, whether it's AI, whether it's the movies, the games, the media we consume, just general conversations in these digital spaces.
Well, thank you very much. Very powerful introduction. Who wants to pick it up and continue this discussion? Luis, how do you see it maybe in university circles? As a professor, you're faced with that daily. How would you respond to what Angad put forward just now?
Yeah, in fact, AI really gets the feeling of society in general. I think what Engad was talking there were lots of chatbots. Even the first one, Eliza, that was back in the 60s, that became easily manipulated. I think, for example, Tai, that was a chatbot by Microsoft. They released a chatbot in which they wanted a chatbot to learn with humans. Great, that is an excellent idea. So basically, the idea was to learn from conversations with users. Okay, And in less than 24 hours, the users get the robot to be really racist with extremist slogans, conspiracy, because they were just trying to manipulate the chatbot. And that is very easy. So, and there were lots of chatbots throughout the years that really showed that to us. So, AI is not neutral. It's not a neutral technology. It's trained on data. Data is designed by people and is deployed within economic systems, and therefore it becomes a cultural infrastructure, as Angat was a little bit saying. So the AI models show that, okay, they use dominant languages, cultures, and economic interests. And the economic interests are the worst for this because I don't mind about dominant languages, cultures, but economic interests are the worst for this, okay? And as a society, we have to really participate on the development and building of these AI systems because it's not technology. They have values and really they can create a new form of symmetry. And that is quite bad. So we should keep diversity in AI because it really matters. We should keep multilingual AI. Okay, this AI is great because I can talk with AI in Portuguese and it answers me in Danish or in Slovenian or in okay English, whatever. That's quite nice. Okay, it's quite open, interdisciplinary. Okay, but we should really keep our values, not only the ones that are most representative in this AI. And one of the things that we should really keep in mind is that this AI was trained with our texts, with everything that humans produced during the last 2000 years. But now is being trained with the things that this AI is producing. Okay, so the AI is being trained with text produced by the AI. And that obviously can lead to a singularity. It's obvious because an AI that produces text that trains new AIs, okay, it's and we don't have a way to stop this at the moment. We have ways of researching how to stop it, and so we should research a lot on this. That's
Yeah, Luis, may I ask you something? This is such a sort of, in a way, provocative but worrying sentence as well. I've read some really good contributions lately about predictions that if we allow AI to generate content itself and continue to do so, at the end, everything will end up being the same because it's using this approximation and sort of sublimation type of techniques. And at the end, we all going to have the same faces. All colors there will be just one color if I exaggerate a bit. What do you think about that?
No, that's easy to simulate. I myself have simulated a scenario on that. Okay, it's easy to simulate a scenario in which if you get AI to produce texts, whatever, produce content, be trained with the content and so on in an infinite loop, it will just get to, well, genetic algorithms show us that, okay, if you use genetic algorithms, okay, are used as an optimization tool and for many things in computer science. And really, if you don't use diversification in genetic algorithms, if you just train at a given point, you'll have a population that is basically the same set of individuals, and they're exactly the same. Okay, it will converge to that population. Okay, it's completely different. Okay, don't say that I'm comparing genetic algorithms with large language models, but okay, but the point is more or less the same. Okay.
No, but I hear your point, and like I'm going to use even a more maybe tangible comparison. IPCC report, right? It's always just the lowest denominator of all countries that are part of UN that are part of it, and it gives us the average of the lowest common understandings of climate change. right? And it leaves out everything that all extremes, all even extreme ideas, extreme conditions. And we cannot even get access to those other information. All we get as citizens is IPCC report, you know? So, I mean, we lose so much. It's sort of a political agreement. So how can we avoid in apps? Who is the one who can ensure, because life is full exceptions, right? Life is full of exceptions. There is no such a thing as an average individual, as an average event in the world, right? Every single event is an exception. Every single individual is unique. And how can we ensure to keep this uniqueness of life if AI becomes such a dominating platform or horizontal layer?
In the future, this will change a lot because now we mostly are discussing this generative AI, large language models, and so on. But now we are in a point in which what we are researching, what we are doing is agentic AI that really not only answers for things, but really can learn, that can have an agenda, that can be really proactive and solve tasks on the long run with some autonomy. And in the next year, well, starting this year, but mostly in the next year, we'll have this for robots. We'll have, for example, large behavioral models, visual language action models. What is this? Is basically the way to put this in robots, machines, not in computers. So we'll have machines that will interact with us in the physical world. And that will change a lot because at a given point, one of the key things is deep reinforcement learning. And reinforcement learning is the way humans and animals mostly learn, okay? Basically by reinforcement. You do something, interact with the environment, and you get a reward or a penalty, and then you learn, and your brain slightly changes due to that. And in the long run, you learn to do things, okay? Just interacting with the environment, doing things, and getting rewards and penalties. And most of these new machines will do that, but not controlled by, they will do that at your place. They will learn interacting with your environment. And so basically they can learn your costumes, they can learn what happens in your place, they can learn. Okay, so basically this will change a lot next year with more physical AI that really is on machines. Again, agentic AI, large behavioral models, visual language action models, that will be the next revolution for next year. This year, 2026, and mostly 2027.
I saw Sebastian trying to come in already earlier, so please go ahead. And my question, in addition to that, would be, are we now narrowing our capacity for cognitive thinking and for creative thinking, saying like that with the digital services, we somehow are becoming digital slaves? All the activities are pushed down, all the manual activities that still need to be done are pushed down to humanity, to people, to individuals to do it. And you cannot even have a natural dialogue with the service providers anymore, but your mentality is narrowed to 1-0 options, where life many times provides situations that are neither 0 nor 1. I myself found myself in this digital gap for a year when part of the banking sort of challenge. But anyway, what's your take on that? And of course, related to these basic questions that I raised.
I think we need to recognize that the type of AI that all the resources flow into, LLMs and their kind of siblings, confuses statistical frequency with truth, and it confuses statistical frequency with relevance. That's by design. That's how they operate. And so whatever is slightly predominant within these models, or rather within the training data within these models, will become more dominant in the output. And whatever is less dominant in the training data will be disappearing in the output. So if I try to answer your original question, who is empowered and who is erased, well, whoever happens to occur more frequently or whatever happens to occur more frequently will be empowered, and whatever happens to occur less frequently will be erased. So we will see a distribution that started out fairly broad, fairly flat, reflecting the full richness of human existence and humanity and content that humans produce, kind of narrowing to whatever happened to be the broad, flat peak of that distribution originally. And so to escape that, we need to either use a broader set of approaches or artificially broaden that distribution to avoid this narrowing down to ultimately to a point or to everyone looking the same. Going to your other question on what happens to our capacity, a question that is not asked enough, or a point that is not being discussed enough, in my view, is what are we actually optimizing for as society or as humanity? Are we optimizing for greater productivity, for some metric of growth, however you want to define or measure it? Are we optimizing for being able to be lazy and greedy, to pick up an earlier thought? Are we maybe optimizing for, I don't know, for justice, or are we optimizing for compassion, or are we optimizing for happiness or a good life, however we define that? That is a discussion that we need really, really, really urgently. And that also influences the discussion around, is AI going to replace us, or are we worried about AI replacing us? Because that is also dependent on what are we optimizing for. And part of that discussion is which capabilities that we have as humans are so precious for us that we want to retain them. We have decided in most societies that our capability to survive in the wild and being thrown into the jungle, yeah, that's something that we've given up because living in an advanced modern society has got other benefits, and we've optimized for other things. And we've optimized, for example, for a very specialized society and economy where we kind of collaborate and everyone specializes in different things and can become better and better. We've done that, and maybe this was collectively a good decision, maybe not, but we've done that. And I wish we had a similar way of thinking around, well, which other capabilities do we want to retain, and which capabilities are we prepared to lose over time?
Well, this was a very rich contribution, provoking one question that today I see as a fundamental of human development and progressive evolution, which is innovation. And innovation, we all know, is based on diversity. If there is no diversity, we hardly can speak about innovation. At the end, we just talk about maybe system of constant improvements, but there is no innovation if we don't have enough diversified inputs. In that sense, the way how you answered the first part would also mean that we got to be aware of that, because narrowing the options of diversity, I cannot even imagine society that how it would look like, in that kind of sense.
Can I just add a thing concerning the comments on Sebastian? I completely agree with what I really think, and it's that AI will become aligned with our human values when it comes to live locally with us. That is the idea of embodied in our environments, cultures, community, not on distant servers that are being trained with the global data. Okay, but that will happen in the next few years.
Okay, but let me go with this
You also have
question now, Luis. Let me go to Marina, because Marina works in the field of cultures a lot and is trying to discuss this diversity of cultural backgrounds and the richness of Aboriginal cultures as well, and how to use them and bring them forward into addressing today's challenges. So, Marina, what would be your contribution to this part of the discussion, based on your research and based on your ongoing dialogues with indigenous cultures? And then, of course, I will ask all of you to sort of close with either opening statement or a question this part of conversation as well. Please, Marina.
Thank you. First of all, I wanted to connect my contribution to the previous discussion about the neutrality that AI is not neutral, but who is neutral? And if we compare to, for example, to people, to, as I mentioned, mass media, or even in comparison to the lecturer in the university, who is more neutral and who has a more diverse approach? It depends on what we are asking and who we believe. Because again, not to take much time, but I came across with even the academic articles, which were absolutely biased. And being a sort of having, for example, Russian and even Soviet Union origin, I understand that the Western articles which were created, sort of the research which was done, was absolutely had absolutely nothing with the true situation, which I am aware of because I am the participant of this situation. So this is their real example. And speaking about AI, I agree that it gives us their sort of fast food answer. And again, this metaphor of having a hamburger or something very quick on the street is cheaper. And again, being lazy and greedy, as we mentioned, it is much more complex and effortless than go home and find good food, or maybe grow your own food and create a good dinner with the natural food and so on and so forth. But at the same time, if we compare different sources of information with AI, which is fed, as already has been was mentioned, with the thousands of years of our knowledge, it depends on what we are asking. Are we lazy enough to have the first answer which the AI is providing to us? Or, as for example, as a metaphor of the big library, you are having sort of, you are putting your effort into go into the highest and very difficult to reach dusty shelf and find the book which you want. So it's again, in terms of having the vast amount of information, we have all the knowledge in one place. And yes, each AI is biased, and we made the comparisons between the US models and Chinese models and Russian models and European models. But we have an absolutely incredible opportunity to compare, to challenge each of these models and to find answers which we want. We can ask each AI to find counter arguments, to criticize the first provided answer and the first provided point of view, to compare, to challenge, to bring maybe unpopular perspectives, or even to criticize them, the answer itself, or to find what answers might be criticized, and to some extent to sort of to trick the AI. And if it is not providing the answer that you want, you can ask, what point of view would you criticize? Because you are not allowed to speak about this. So we can have a lot of information, and we can have a lot of perspectives if they pay effort, and if we take the responsibility, and if we take it not as a granted answer, which is omniscience oracle who knows everything, but play with it.
Marina, may I ask you, because this is, for me, quite a provocative thought as well. Do you feel that we need some sort of regulation which will display which bias view a particular tool is representing, how would a consumer or end user know what kind of answers is she or he getting out of the AI?
You can even ask what you are not allowed to tell me.
Yeah, but you never know what you get back. I mean, what do you get back? You know, do you think we should have some sort of transparency rule for AI to actually prompt users that they know what they're dealing with? And maybe we allow Luis to come in because obviously he has some sort of reply, please.
Yeah, I will be short. I just think that we need to train people to ask right questions and to compare, as we do with all other sources of information. And don't take for granted what is provided to you just firsthand.
Okay, cool. Luis?
Yeah, well, bias is the price of learning from a world. Okay, we learn from a world, whichever is the world, but wisdom comes from recognizing and trying to balance those bias. Again, as I told you, I think in the future things will change because every intelligence is biased. Humans included. Okay, our children, for example, learn our language, our culture, our values, and they are biased. Okay, bias is not an error. Is how intelligence is socially grounded. Okay, it's not an error. Okay, we can say it's an error because it's a large language model that everyone will use, but it's not an error. It's how intelligence is grounded. So, in the future, if you have AI trained locally, they will reflect our culture just as children reflect the environment in which they grow. Okay, it will be like that. Okay, I have no doubts about this. We can talk about this in 3 years, but I really don't have doubts about this. Okay, so the real question is not how to eliminate bias. Bias will always exist, but how to ensure that AI keeps and develops healthy, plural, with transparent biases, because biases will always appear. Okay, this kind of centralized AI obviously has these global biases, but local AI can really carry community values and so on. And I strongly believe that will be the future.
So do you think that this technology will simply have all the characteristics and weaknesses that humans have?
That's my opinion, a little bit visionary because we don't have exactly this now, but in 3 years or 2 years, we can talk about this again.
But what do you think about transparency and to have some sort of regulatory features that every AI should provide in order to understand a little bit more what is the background? Is it possible? Is it even possible to think that way?
I hate too much regulation because that really prevents innovation. I like certification. And in fact, I believe the AI systems will be more certified and regulated. If you want, for example, a robot that will take care of our fathers and our elders, we have to have the system certified to do that. If I want an AI system that, okay, it's an expert in law or medicine, okay, we have to certify that the system is capable of doing that. Just we certify as humans are capable of that. Obviously, we need some regulations, but mostly we need good certification mechanisms for AI and robotic systems in the future. I'm strongly against too much regulation. We can see the AI Act, and it regulates systems that it even regulates things that did not have large language models. When everybody knew that large language models will become powerful in the next few years. Okay, then they put some LLMs, but now where is agentic AI? Where is the autonomy? What is deep reinforcement learning? Systems that learn and change their behavior. Okay, where are robotics, large behavioral models? Nothing regulating what is now being developed. And all European projects are developing on AI and on robotics are developing this now. Okay, where is the regulation for this? Okay, it's very difficult to regulate things that are just being developed and with this pace because we are developing things not as we developed in the past. AI is really developing very, very fast. Okay.
Okay, but let me then invite you to the final statement through this last actually question, because I just realized the time flies. I mean, the discussion was so intense that we're almost at the end. But who can realistically keep AI developers and users aligned with life regulation, culture, field design? Is this what is it? The markets that will define the way how AI will be shaped? And maybe use this opportunity and also maybe share again an open statement or question as the concluding remark for today's discussion. Who wants to start? Okay, let me then call Sebastian. Go ahead.
Well, I would put this in very pragmatic terms. We've talked a lot about what the shape of the future should be. And this is just us in a room and other people in rooms on a shoestring budget. If we compare that with the literally hundreds of billions of dollars that go into a very, very small, narrow niche of AI development, this is a very, very weird relationship. This is a little bit like society saying, "Oh, let's build a big house," and we pour all the money into bringing more concrete and more wood and more steel and more glass, and we have this notion that this building somehow is big and it'll be great, and we just throw everything we have. We throw all the energy, we throw all the water, we throw all the bright minds at creating this building, but we have no understanding whatsoever what the building should look like, about the architecture, about the design, about the safety of the building. It's like, yeah, people can kind of do that on the side on the weekend and certainly not going to be funded. I would go as far, and this is from my experience of the past 5 to 6 years, I would go as far as saying there is a failure of philanthropy in this area. Philanthropy has been very, very good at funding long established causes, things like sanitation, things like lack of social justice, things like environmental protection, and so on and so forth, all good causes. My experience has been that philanthropy has been unable to figure out that architecting the future is one of the areas with the far, far biggest return on invest, if you want to put it in that way. Every dollar that you spend from philanthropic sources on architecting the future, on understanding, and also on agreeing on building consensus in a society, what future we want to live in, is a dollar that is returned 100 or 1,000-fold. And instead, we have all the philanthropic funding going into the established causes, not being available for our digital future, so that people like us who are thinking about it, who want to make it happen, who want to have that societal dialogue and consensus and kind of build that understanding of the future we want to live in, are competing with insane amounts that are not even comparable in orders of magnitude. And to me, this is, and I've come to the conclusion that this is one of the fundamental hurdles to a positive development of the future.
What a profound thought. And indeed, follow the money and you'll see what the future is going to be. So this
yeah,
is
I mean,
very...
we go around finding a grant here, a grant there, and then, oh, can we maybe fund a PhD student, and can we maybe find a few thousand to put on a conference here or there, and this is not even comparable to, yeah, a company who says, yeah, oh, we built AGI, and they get thrown $100 billion at them,
Yeah.
to do anything, whatever they like, whether it makes sense or not.
Yeah, indeed, there is a relationship between billions versus millions or even thousands of dollars being used in imagining the future, where and also imagining responsibly the consequences, the externalities of decisions. We always talk about them when they're already fully negatively, exercised, and then we start addressing them. And I'm also very hopeful that we will put some efforts trying to imagine and proactively include better solutions in our operational procedures, not to deal with these negative externalities 10 or 20 years down the road when it's fully operational, the solution is fully operational. But Marina, what's your take on this? This is something we're faced all the time. We who lead different movements and different type of net-based solutions or net of the net-based solutions, because there's hardly no funding for this. And how do you take that? Do you think that this is also one of the topics should be addressed in a more deeper and more responsible and more systemic way? What's your take on that?
I would suggest, so I definitely don't know the answer for the first for the first question, and speaking about governance, again, I'm maybe not pessimistic, but again, I could not say that, and I fully support Sebastian and others that say that mostly now the development is driven by benefits, money, and not the best for humanity as a species and for those people who should be taken care of. And speaking about what might be done, and each time I ask myself what I could do. So I definitely can't go to people who own these big AI companies. At least now, maybe we could do it later, and that would be great. But I think that the answer is in the education, because when we create the conditions where people are acquiring their more conscious, more wise solutions, so when people are aware that they might become better with the AI as a tool, or as a sparring partner through which you can train your capacities, and not just eat this fast food, which I mentioned in the previous intervention. I think that education and providing maybe a basics literacy on what might be done and how you should challenge the information which is provided to you, not only by AI, but again, how are you dealing with the information? How are you dealing with your life? How are you interacting with all three natures, as you say, Violeta, with the natural environment, with the built environment, with the digital environment? If we provide people who are conscious and aware of what should be done, and if they are thinking about their own future, that's the problem. We can imagine the whole future of Earth and of humanity, but children are not taught to think about their own future. And here I see that AI might be both a threat and a very good supporter. If we teach children how to use AI to imagine their lives and to reimagine their futures and to widen their opportunities and their visions and to make their worldview more mature. So it all is achievable if we provide the knowledge and the literacy on how to interact with these new tools. So education would be my answer.
Okay, let me go now to Angad and ask him, is this possible? Will the young people be perceptive to this kind of education and this kind of training? We've been trying to get the whole world literate But we see that this is a serious challenge still. And before, there was a question on the table also, are we all going to be part of AI, or we won't exist anymore? Or will there be a lot of people left behind and never being able to access this, or accessing it and being through the implications of AI and being fully affected by it without really understanding what's going on? Is that a legitimate challenge? What do you think, Angat?
Yes, so I think first of all, everyone wants to be a part of this. Everyone wants to know what's happening, right? It's just that their motivations behind it are shaped by, as Sebastian and Marina mentioned, it's because we're shaped by capitalistic views and it's following the money.
Agnan, you're
Or the
talking about youth, right? Because I know a lot of
Yes.
people who don't want to be part of it, but they don't belong to the
Mhm.
youth. So you're talking only about youth right now.
Yes, I'm
Okay.
particularly talking about the youth. I think the real challenge here, so what we're seeing here is the youth are already using tech and AI, right? But the motivations and reasons behind them are employment and monetary gain in the future, right? For the large part, we need to shift that perception, right? As Marina mentioned, education is important, but what is the purpose of that education? The purpose of all education should not be employment. The purpose of education should be knowledge, right? And using that knowledge to shaping the world you live in. Secondly, I think one of the biggest challenges, and you mentioned that, is accessibility, right? Yeah, I could be sitting in a village in India, with hopes and dreams of using AI to advance healthcare, for example. But I don't have even a mobile phone with internet to be able to use AI. How am I even supposed to achieve these dreams? Right. So there are lots of other barriers we need to kind of overcome to provide access to technology and then work towards digital literacy in general, which includes digital literacy, and then we can work towards a better society which shapes AI better in a more holistic and inclusive manner.
Well, thank you very much for all your inputs. If you have to pick, we have 1 more minute, one word that you would like to leave us with, or let's say one sentence at the end of this discussion, which is just the beginning. I'm very grateful that you open up this topic so broadly that with every session that is coming this year, we'll be able to go deeper in one of these little elements that we discussed today. What would be the sentence that you would like to leave us with? So yeah, Luis, let's go and start with you.
Yeah, kind of a short messages, message, sorry. One of the things we should think is that, okay, now the next generation of AI won't just predict things, won't just answer to things, it will act, learn, and evolve. And I think in the next 5 years, we'll have AI agents integrated in any digital platform, robotic system, from industry to healthcare to our daily life, all of this. And my question is, are we really ready to this self-improving intelligent machines? Not this AI that we have now, that we were not ready, but to the new AI that we'll have in 1 or 2 years. And what I believe is that our challenge now is to ensure that this AI grows with us and not against us. That's my message.
Great message. Thank you very much. Sebastian, you were next because I see you already unmuted yourself.
My sentence would be, let's dare to dream and let's have the courage to shape the digital future.
Lovely. Thank you. Marina, what would be your message?
Maybe let's don't fear to take the responsibility for the outcomes, and let's be aware of what we are trying to achieve. So let's not use AI as fast food.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Angat, what would be your message?
to keep it short and sweet, actively participate and open doors for others to participate.
So invitation to participation, and that is a great way of finishing. I personally believe that only together we can thrive, and I cannot thank you deeply enough for this very open and truthful participation in this discussion. And I can only hope we will continue to meet and continue where we left today. And the next opportunity will be already in April 15th, when we will have AI and basically we changed it, right? In March is the first discussion, and this discussion will be on culture, which will be led by Marina. So I apologize for putting April session already on. However, we do have also the Soul of the Cities series going on as well, and I'm looking forward to engage on those topics as well, because many times they intertwine. So let's not shy away from dreaming. I fully agree with Sebastian, with Marina on that, and you, Luis. It's an opportunity, and based on the past experiences, we've learned so much. So let's use that knowledge, bring it forward, and do just a little bit better in the future. And this kind of sessions encourage me enormously and give me hope that humanity, we should not give up on, and that we can still deliver something we need and something we want. So thanks a lot. Thank you everyone who was with us till the end. And look, I'm really looking forward to seeing you again in one of the next sessions, or in some other circles and networks where we'll continue to cross-pollinate and hopefully plant the seeds for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you for
you.
bringing
Thank
us
you very much.
together.
Yeah,
Thank you.
very much, and see you very soon.